want you to turn to Matthew chapter 27. We're focusing today on the cross and next Sunday, of course, on Easter. And there are some great opportunities this week for ministry and for focus and for the strengthening of your own spiritual life. And I want to encourage you to take advantage of all of them and all of the experiences you can get in on. We are going to meet every day, 1 at the Cumberland Presbyterian Church, and there'll be a half-hour service of focusing on Jesus and walking up to Good Friday, and we will then be eating together. So if you can slip off from your job, you got an hour, just come and experience that. If you can only come for part of it, experience that, and just get in all of those that you can, just for the sake of saying, hey, Jesus, I just want to concentrate on who you are and what you're all about. Keep that in mind. Also on Friday, there's going to be the Stations of the Cross. And it is literally, I think, about 1.5 miles. It's the kind of experience of prayer and focus again. You can do part. You can start at one end, and the stations are in the form of a cross down at the square, up 231, and so forth. And there'll be a map for you. And each station is a place where you can just stop, sit, reflect on. One of them will be the garden. One will be we're manning, our cross is manning the actual event, death, which will be at the heart of the square. So you can get in on some of that. It's going on all day. You can walk that if you got time. If you only got time to go to one or two, just, again, opportunity, grace opportunity, just to focus, just to get in on. Saturday night, we will not be meeting here. We will be meeting at the square. We've always had and participated in a Easter sunrise service, and some of you weren't going to come because it was 6:30 in the morning. So we decided to have it night, which you're out on Saturday night. Yeah. So we decided to have it on Saturday night. And we've got lots of churches that are participating. This eliminates anybody else who's having an Easter sunrise service and then couldn't join in the community. So Saturday night is going to be our Easter service, a weekend service. And we're going to have a couple speakers, and there'll be some phenomenal music. It'll be on the square, outside. It's going to be a great day, sun shining all day. That evening it's going to be about 60 degrees. Brother, bring a little sweater. Other than that, you'll be really comfortable. We're counting on about 500 or 600 people being there, and we want you to be there to participate. Again, grace opportunity to focus with the community upon what Jesus is doing, has done, is doing. So share with us and be a part of those scenes. And of course, we'll be here for Easter next Sunday. When you come to the cross event, it's really, in some ways, a disappointing writing as you get into Matthew. And I think the other Gospels are the same, although I haven't studied them as much. But chapter 26 and 27, of course, give you the cross event and the cross scene. Starting you at Jesus instituting the Lord's Supper, moving through into the Garden of Gethsemane, then moving into the actual betrayal, and then the cross. And as you get into it, there are, and I've told you this before, no doubt, there are no physical details of the cross. So if you say, I just want to study the cross and what they did to him, you don't find it. We have history. We have what we think happened when you crucified somebody, but they give us none of those details at all. The closest we come to it is in verse 35 of chapter 27, where he says, then they crucified him. And that's it. And yet there are 2 chapters full of this stuff. And what you discover is that Matthew doesn't give us what's going on in the physical details of the actual crucifixion. How did they put the nail in his hand? How many times did the hammer come down? Did they miss and hit his fingers? All of that stuff. The physical detail of it. It's gone. It's not there. What he gives us is all of these settings, individual lives being affected by the cross. In other words, you got the soldiers gambling. You got the sign above his head and how that affected the leaders of Israel who go to Pilate and say, get that thing off of there. You got the mother, Mary, and John, and that scene. You got all of these clusters of people that are gathered around the cross, deeply, deeply, deeply affected by it. One of those stories that's given to us is a man by the name of Joseph of Arimathea. And it's given to us in verse 57. So Matthew chapter 27, verse 57, we have this burial scene. And Joseph of Arimathea is right in the middle of it, obviously, and you know the story. It says in verse 57, now when evening had come, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself had also become, oh, get this, who himself had also become a disciple of Jesus. He's out of the closet. This man went to Pilate, asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be given to him. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in a new tomb, which he had hewn out of the rock. And he rolled a large stone against the door of the tomb and departed. And Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary sitting opposite the tomb. Let's bow in prayer. I just feel overwhelmed, Jesus, with you and, what you did, crucifixion, all the pain and agony, the whole spiritual dynamic of it, leaping off your throne, taking on flesh, the sacrifices that you have made in my behalf. I have no right to pride. I have no right to look who I am. I have no right to do anything but stand before you and everybody else as the rotten, sinful, betraying individual that I have been. And so grateful for grace, for mercy, for your blood that has radically changed that in my life. And no wonder I stand in awe of you. I stand in awe of my own filth. I stand in awe of you that would embrace that and make me your child. So I just want to tell you today I love you, and you're it for me. You're the total deal. Not going anyplace else. Not looking anywhere else. You're all there is. Capture us with that thought today. I pray thee in Jesus' name. Amen. She was a teenager. All the dreams of a teenager. Thinking about marriage. In fact, a proposal had already been made. Contract had already been signed. It was really all done. Everybody was excited about it because it was a good match. No doubt about that. His name was Joseph. Mary was so excited about all that was going to take place in the marriage, and she dreamed about the house. And can you see her in the garden in the backyard giggling and thinking about the dishes she's collecting and putting in the hope chest, and how many kids they're going to have, and how it's all going to come together, and how they'll have such good times with their friends, and how they'll be a part of the temple and all the worship, and her life is just beginning. And in a moment of time in that garden, an angel shows up and says, Mary, you indeed are blessed. But I want to tell you, you're going to be with child. And it's going to be conceived of the Holy Spirit. And God is going to overshadow you. And this Jesus walks right in the middle of her life. And I would have liked to have been there and just seen the expression on her face. Maybe a little horror. Because have you got any idea what that meant to her life? All the dreams and all that she had planned suddenly were gone. What is Joseph going to think? How are you going to go to him and say, hey, Joseph, not my fault, didn't have an affair. This is of God. You know, who's going to believe that? What friends are going to buy into this? The girlfriend she's been running with, do you think they're going to, oh, this is so wonderful, they're going to be laughing behind her back. By Jewish law, Joseph can have come down and stone her to death. Her life is on the line. We know more about what's going to happen to her than she knows herself at this point. It's going to mean such upset in her life that it's just going to be, you can't imagine, flight into Egypt, going into exile, leaving family, leaving home. Everything is upset. Dreams are gone. All her future plans, all the nice home, all the dreams that she's put together, everything is shifted. It's all gone. It's all gone. Why? Jesus marched into the middle of her life. And what on earth is she going to get out of this? Forever known as the mother of the Son of God. That is radical. Absolutely radical. From the time I was a little kid, all the way growing up, I was sick of poverty. I was dead tired of having things I wanted, and I set my goal. I was never going to be poor again. When you don't have money in the family and you want to be a millionaire, you got to make it yourself. And there's only one possibility in my culture. There is one job you can get that, if you can land, but everybody wants it. But if you can land, everybody's after it, but if you could land that job, the money just piles in. You can just, I'm going to retire when I'm 40. I'll have everything else. Now I'm going to have to scrape and save my money because it's going to take bribes to get this done. Because you got to bribe Rome if you want this job. And you got to be the one who pays the most. And you got to know the right people. So I got to get acquainted. I got to rub shoulders. I got to cower. I got to do just the right stuff. I got to be at the right place at the right time. I have worked on that night and day for a number of years now. And it's all coming together. In fact, I'm now sitting behind the table, the tax collector table. My name is Matthew. I have arrived. My bank account is just going up just by leaps and bounds. I have finally got in the spot of my dreams. This is much better than I ever thought. I can't hardly believe that I finally made it here. Millionaire by the time I'm 40, no problem at all. I can see it all. There's been a little upset, but hey, it's all going to smooth out, and I'm going to get everything I want. And then one day, Jesus walked to my table. He looked right at me. It seemed like it was for hours. But it was only seconds. No sermon, no condemnation, no wagging the finger, no, well, you bad boy, none of that kind of stuff. He just looked at me and said, come on. Follow me. Do you have any idea what it meant for me to get up out of that chair and go after him? Everything I had dreamed about from childhood all the way up, just on. All the comfort, the financial gain, my retirement, everything I... And I would never be the same again. And what did I get out of it? You're still talking about me 2,000 years later. I wrote a book. I wrote a book. It's radical. That's real radical. Raised in a Roman world, decided the best way for me to climb the ranks was the military. So I got into the military. Did really well. Rose to positions. Had several really key spots in Judea. Did really well. Placed myself in a position where I was next in line for the governorship of Judea. Caesar noticed me. I got chosen. It's a high position. It's a stepping stone to bigger, better things. And there's a lot of grief that goes along with ruling over the Jews. They're a mess. Stubborn. Remind me of some of you. They're hard to get along with. They're so opinionated, and they got these little rules. They're so legalistic. But hey, and we've had some upsets, some real upsets, but everything's going good. Until that Jesus walked in. My wife even had dreams about him at night, saying, don't mess with him. Like there's something really serious going on. And they backed me into a corner, and I'm standing in front of this huge crowd with a bowl of water and I'm washing my hands, saying, hey, this is not my deal. This is your deal. Hey, you guys are going to have to handle this. But friends, I couldn't get him off my hands. And you want to know what I got out of it? I can tell you. I ended up in a mental institution. Out of my mind. Day after day. Just washing my hands. I just can't get it off my hands. Because this man walked into my life. That's radical. Real radical. My name is Joseph of Arimathea. Hey, I'm a good man. I'm a Pharisee. We're normally not rich. Not as rich as the Sadducees. But Hey, I've had some businesses on the side, and it's been good. And I've made plans, had a meaningful career in leadership. Everything is going well. Got a nice family, kids. I'm in rulership. I'm one of the most 70 important men of Israel. We determine the whole focus, political atmosphere, political decisions of all Israel. I'm responsible for that. I feel good about my life. Everything's right. Good future. Making plans. Everything's okay. Then this man walked into my life. This Jesus man. It cut me in two. Everything I had studied about the prophets, everything I had heard from their lips in the Old Testament, everything that I had read in the Scriptures just all came crushing down upon me. And you have no idea how radical this embracing of Jesus was for me. I want to give you some indication. Number one, identification. Who I am. The embracing of Jesus in my life literally radically revolutionized my whole view of myself and what I am all about. For instance, look at verse 58. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. See, a criminal is never buried. Well, wouldn't say never, but very seldom. Why? Because he's ostracized. He's cut off from his family. And I admit to you that once in a while, an aged father or an aged mother who just has real love, son who's been crucified, will come and beg the governor for his body. And out of sympathy, the governor will grant that, and you can have the body. Otherwise, the body just hangs there. And it just rots until it just falls off of the cross. And the birds pick at it. And finally, the scavenger dogs clean up the mess. And see, that's why the Calvary deal, the Mount of Golgotha, that's why it's called the place of the skull. Because when you look up there, it's just covered with all of these bones and skulls that of people who've been crucified. Just, you don't bury those people. They're not worthy of that. And when Jesus was crucified, he had warned his disciples. Why didn't they make plans for his burial? Well, Jesus, if you're going to die, we're going to have a place to bury you. Why didn't they secure a spot? Why didn't they select a group that was going to... They were so far removed from the truth and the reality of what Jesus told them that they didn't even get in on that, man. They ran like scared rabbits. They hid in the upper room. They were afraid that the creak of the stairs for the soldiers would be coming and getting them. They weren't going to get involved. He had no family. There was no one. He was going to hang there and rot. Listen, I couldn't let that happen. Do you know what it meant for me to go down and get on my knees before Pilate and say, please, 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 I'll become his mother. I'll become his father. I'll become his brother. You got to give me his body. I got to have it. I so totally identified with Jesus that I became his family. And do you know what that meant, people? It was like a tattoo on the end of your nose. I mean, every time you look at me, you see it. Can you imagine all the business contacts I had? Hey, that's how I got my extra money. Come on. Now, all of a sudden, people are looking at me out of the corner of their eye, and my businesses are dropping off. Because everybody knows I'm the guy that went and got the body and buried it. Do you know what it meant to my kids? My kids go down to school. And of course, parents have talked, you know. And other kids are now looking at my kids who would have played with them before, are now looking at them and saying, oh, his dad. My wife was right in the middle of the leadership of the Sanhedrin Ladies Auxiliary. She's in a circle, friend. And all these friends, I mean, we're powerful people. And you know what's going on now? They go out afterwards, but they don't invite her anymore. This was nothing casual. This was nothing, yeah, I'll join your club type of thing. Jesus walked in the middle of my life, and I identified as his mother, I identified as his father, I identified as his brother. I became his. And it ruined everything. Or did it? Or did it? So when Jesus walked into the middle of my life, it radically changed everything. Number one, identification. Who I am. Because I'm no longer who I was. Number two, individuality. My focus. When Jesus walked in the middle of my life, it literally revolutionized the whole direction and focus of my entire living. The Sanhedrin, there's 70 of us. Again, we're the most powerful men of Israel. And you know, we're made up of 35 Sadducees, 35 Pharisees. That's to keep it balanced, so we can't outvote each other. Sadducees are radically different than Pharisees. Sadducees, they're the wealthy. Sadducees, they got all the money. Sadducees, they got the big houses down on Sanhedrin Row. Pharisees, we aren't on that class. We're focused on law. We're focused on being straight. We're focused on, hey, keep the thing sacred. We're focused on, hey, don't let the boat rock. We're focused on, hey, keep the standard high. We're focused on that. 613 oral traditions, and we live and die by them. And we don't budge. Sadducees, they're flaky, but we keep them in line. That's our role. I'm one of these Pharisees over here. My focus is on law. My focus is on keep straight. I have to constantly correct everybody. Well, yeah, how will they know if I don't tell them? It's my role. I'm a Pharisee. Do you know how radical it was for me to embrace Jesus? Oh, let me read it for you. Verse 59. When Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth. It's a simple statement, but you don't get the details of it. See, the details of it are, I have to go down to Pilate. Now, you understand it normally took about 2.5 days for a guy to die of crucifixion. But see, this whole thing was all out of killed her. None of it was done right. We crucified him on Friday morning at 9 o'clock. And by 6 o'clock that night, the Sabbath day is starting. When the Sabbath day starts, we're all shut down. Pharisees. So at 6 o'clock that evening, everything is shut down. We can't do anything. Luckily for us, Jesus died about 4 o'clock. Well, the other two did too because they broke their legs. Didn't have to do that with Jesus. So he's dead. Now, if we're going to get his body into a tomb, we got 2 hours, man. We got 2 hours to run down to Pilate. Hey, we got to have his body. Pilate says, well, he couldn't be dead. It's only been a half a day. And Pilate has to send somebody down, check it out. Yeah, well, okay, he's dead. Come back. Now he tells us you're going to have the body. By that time, it's 4:30. Come on. We've got an hour and a half to get his body down, get the thing washed, get it wrapped in a clean linen cloth, get it down to the tomb, put it in, and pull the peg, and the stone will roll down. This is a rush job. I mean, it should take a whole day to get something like that done. So we got to get it. So we're taking his body down. Can you imagine? Here I am dressed in this is not show dress. This is not, I like everybody to see me. It isn't that kind of dress. See, I have this robe that's in a square, and I wrap it around me as a robe, and it has tassels, which are fairly good size because they represent the law of God. And I'm literally surrounded by the law of God. So when I walk, the law of God just surrounds me and flows with me. And it's very significant. And there's this whole defilement thing. You don't dare touch a dead thing. And you got to be careful about crowds because you don't know where Gentiles are for sure. And they'll get all over you. So you got to keep away from all the crowds. And you got to be careful about dust because dust probably got on some Gentile, which now gets on you, and that'll ruin you. So we got all of this. I'm a Pharisee. So this is important, people. And here I am. You know what I'm doing? I'm running down to the cross, taking a dead body. What? Off the cross, it falls on me. I got blood on me. I'm washing. I had some servants, I admit that. And Nicodemus, he came along and helped me too. But when it came down to it, man, a total, absolute. But it didn't matter. Jesus became more important to me than my law. And loving his heart became more important to me than my Sabbath day. And his blood. Do you know how radical that was? How radical that change took place in my life. Totally out of character for me. It was Jesus. So I'm trying to tell you that when this Jesus walked into my life, it was my identification, who I am, totally changed. My individuality, focus of my life, totally changed. Oh, let me give you one more. Independence. My future totally changed. Oh, look at it. Verse 60. And laid it in a new tomb, which he had hewn out of a rock, and rolled a large stone against the door of the tomb. Listen, I've been planning my future for years. Getting ready for grandkids. Kind of things I'm going to do with them. Putting money in place. Planning on my retirement. Even planned for my death. Planned the funeral. Even got my own tomb. Do you realize nobody did that? I did. And listen, I plan well because I got a tomb that is hewn out of just carved right out of the heart of a rock. This huge rock. Bought the thing. And just got some guys and just chiseled that thing right out. And when you go in, it's low, but as you go in, it gets broader. And you got this, it's all in a rock, which is real advantage because no animal's going to go in and get the body. And it'll be dry. And that's my burial place. I planned it. It cost me a fortune, but hey, I'm worth it. So I got that all set up. Got my retirement set up. Got how I'm going to live. Got my businesses in place. Got my burial set up. Everything's just, all I need to do now is lean back and let it happen. And Jesus walked into the middle of my life. Do you know how radical that was? Do you understand how upside down things became? Suddenly everything is just absolutely, the whole, independent and doing my own thing and got my own direction and got it all planned out, and suddenly my whole retirement is blown and my businesses are going down, and suddenly all my business contacts won't talk to me anymore, and the power that I had in the Sanhedrin, which gave me real significance, that's all gone now because everybody's looking at me cross-eyed or out of the corner of their eye, and now even my own tomb. And people, what did I get out of it? Where I go, people whisper, his burial place was the site of the resurrection. And forever, they've talked about it. You know how radical that is? See, I wish I could present to you a gospel this morning where he will come and tweak your life. See, I think we could go with the idea that you're not the dad you really ought to be, but Jesus will give you some good instruction and help you be better. I think we could go. I think we could come on Sunday morning and say, I probably did need a little attitude check. And let God help me with my attitude. But the gospel has never, ever been that. The gospel has always been total upheaval. Revolutionary to its core. Total upset. My plans are gone. My own tomb is removed. My reputation is affected. What people think about me is changed. My home relationships are altered. Who wants a Jesus like that? We bow in your presence today, dear Lord. A choice? Is there any other kind of Jesus? Is there just a Jesus who helps me with my problems? Is there just a Jesus who some initial problems? Is there just a Jesus who pats me on the head? Is there just a Jesus who gives me proper encouragement? Is there just a Jesus who straightens out some folks that don't like me? Is there only a Jesus who, when you come, it's radical upheaval. It's total shakeup. It's walking in one direction and now walking in the other opposite direction. It's my comfort and my ease and working things out in my life to radical upheaval. Till your divine will plays itself out in such startling manners that I find myself just hanging on to my life, wondering where it's all going. Forgive us, Jesus. Forgive me when I've wanted to adjust you down. To what makes me comfortable. Forgive me when I've wanted to use you and your magical power for my own comfortable plans. And Lord, it takes everything I got, I admit that. But I want to march into. I want to get up out of my seat behind my table and walk and follow you. And let all the plans and all the work and all that I've done go by the wayside, that your will might be accomplished in my life. I want to giggle in a garden and find you birthed in me. And know quite well that nothing will ever be the same again. And nobody will ever look at me as they have before. And all my reputation is on the line. And it doesn't matter. Because you are in me. And oh God, I've been at crucial moments when I was washing my hands saying it's not my fault. Don't let me end up in a mental institution washing my hands forever. When I could have stopped this whole thing. But didn't. Call me today to the radicalness of your presence. Heads are bowed. This is not for the lighthearted. If you're stuck on your own way, this is not for you. If you're not ready to turn loose of everything you hold dear, don't respond to this. This is for those who are willing to lose everything in order to find everything. This is for those who are willing to lose their life that they might find it. This is for those who have nothing in their hands but the crumbling ashes of their own dreams and see them as distasteful and unworthy of their lives. and want to get up from the table and embrace Him. Oh, embrace Him. Be careful.